Here we go!
Welcome to the Nintendo Power Zone. We are a videocast-ass podcast dedicated to bringing you the best Nintendo-related topics, but you guys don't care about any of that right now, and neither do I. Today, the Pokemon Company had an amazing Twitter press conference. It was a real press conference in Japan. It was a Twitter press conference for the rest of the world, and they announced some stuff. So joining me today is Brendan, and we're going to talk about all the announcements at the Pokemon 2018 press conference. They started off with a game that I'm pretty sure hurt Nintendo's stock price. Brendan, they started off with a game called Pokemon Quest, which looks like Pokemon Minecraft, but not Pokemon Minecraft. And like the art style is very reminiscent of like Minecraft, but
I would say it's kind of Crossy Roads is what I feel like it's like. Crossy Roads.
Yeah,
like
okay.
People compare it to Roblox and Minecraft. It's like, it's not quite those, but I see it being the Pokemon Crossy Roads, which Crossy Roads has kind of cutesy art style. And so with Pokemon, that's kind of nice. It's kind of adorable in a way, but it's weird for some of them, like Kabuto, let's say.
Yeah. I thought this was a pretty cute looking game. They gave out, They released some screenshots of the game. They released some gameplay. The gameplay kind of reminded me of Pokemon, I think it's called Rumble here in the States.
Yeah, Rumble.
Pokemon Smash in Japan. It reminded me of that kind of gameplay, but very different. It's like they're moving away.
It's more RPG than beat 'em up this time.
Yeah. Which is nice. I like the fact that they're open to spin-off games again, because for a little while the Pokemon Company had backed off with spin-offs because of a game called Pokemon Conquest. Like
Detective Pikachu is a thing, though.
Yeah, and we also got Pokken Tournament. But like they backed off for a while. It's like they stopped making like the mystery dungeon games. They killed off the Ranger series.
I need more Ranger though.
Yeah, they killed off the Ranger series, which I'm still not over that.
There's got to be some way to bring it back somehow in the future.
Yeah, you think with the new touchscreen on the Switch, it could be a lot more fun.
But then it's handheld only, though.
Yeah, but so then but when you dock it, you switch to Joy-Cons.
But how would you tell where your capture stylus is on the screen?
There's the IR sensor on the...
I mean, I guess. I don't know. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. I can talk this all night, though.
So, so Pokemon Quest, it's a very interesting looking game, and it's a multi-platform game for the Pokemon Company. It's going to be available on iOS, Android, and the Switch, and it's going to be available now. So it's already up on the eShop. I haven't had a chance to download it yet. I've been too busy freaking out talking to Mario After Party, who is extraordinarily excited about another game we're going to talk about in a minute.
And later on.
But I think this is an interesting game. I know a lot of people are already in the hate category. Probably not a good idea to open the press conference with this game. I know you want to start saving. You kind of want to build up to announcements, but when everybody's anticipating like a core series game and the first thing you throw at them is Pokemon Quest, I can see where the anger came from. I was a little like confused. I was like, "What is this?" Like, well, it's cute, but what is it?
I feel like part of it is that people had a set expectation in mind when we were told there's a conference. They were told, look, there's been an E3 leak going around, and there's a Pokemon game listed on it. I won't mention anything further than that, etc. But people have been pretty sure that Pokemon game was coming. And they when they saw Pokemon Quest, that was not the game they had in mind. And I think that was also part of that fiery reaction. Was like, why this? We were expecting this completely other thing. But that's also, we'll touch on that a little bit later at this episode too, though.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool looking game, and I like the multi-platform aspect of it. We'll see how it is. It's a free to start game, which means that inevitably you'll have to start paying for things. Not dissimilar to what we see in Pokemon Go. Like we have loot boxes in Pokemon Go, and we have loot boxes in Pokemon Duel, and I believe you can buy jewels in Pokemon. It's not called Troze anymore. What's it called?
Shuffle?
Yes, Pokemon Shuffle. I mean, so this is the platform that they've chosen to embrace. Like the Pokemon Company is down with like loot boxes.
Now, I have to ask though. So I'm actually not sure how the microtransactions in some way will actually work. But my understanding was that the free to start format was the format where Super Mario Run took, where you have the first like 3 or so levels, and you just buy a whole game for $10. And I kind of thought that's how this was going to be, instead of microtransactions for loot boxes. I'm not entirely sure how that works though.
I was looking at a listing of different packages available in the game. So there's like a $2.99 package, a $3.99 package. I think they may have misspoke with free to start. I think they meant free to play.
Yeah, free to play. Then that would make sense.
Or it just might have been a translation error on know, like look, when there's this much hype around a press conference, translation errors are forgivable.
Agreed.
Things will get cleared up as they go along. Very interesting game. I'm interested. I will definitely download it on the eShop tonight. I'll download it on my mobile device, and I will find out if I like the game. I'm hoping that the games are cross-compatible, that if I log into my phone, I am also playing the same version of the game on my Switch and vice versa. Like, I don't want to be creating multiple profiles because that would be tedious.
I hate starting different characters for other things. Before we move on, I want to touch a bit on what the gameplay sort of looks and feels like so far. You have a team with like 3 Pokemon characters, as opposed to like with Rumble, you had your like 1 character, but you could always swap out different Pokemon. And in Rumble, you sort of just beat them up with 2 different attacks. With this, it looks more like you have different stats, different like how your team works and functions as a team looks to be a lot more important as well. And I think that's really cool that it's more RPG-like, but it still kind of feels like a bit like Rumble, which is a great Pokemon spinoff as it is.
Super customizable too. It looks like you're going to be able to, change the stats of your team. It looks like you're going to be able to evolve your team, which I think is a very interesting game. Like, it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I definitely think we should all give the game a chance. And it's a new Pokemon game. I'll take spin-off games in whatever form they come. Detective Pikachu has been one of my favorite games of 2018. So I'm looking forward to embracing more Pokemon.
And one last thing, actually. So I feel like Pokemon Company wouldn't release a game if they didn't think it had some sort of success to it, that it would be successful, people would enjoy it. I feel like when you make a game, you want people to enjoy it. You don't release it if they won't. And I feel like that's a thing Nintendo and Pokemon Company is very set on, like, enforcing. They're not going to release something half-assed or whatever. They want a finished product that people will enjoy. And so I think you give it the chance, you like it, awesome. That's their intention.
Well, and I think that's why the art style might work in this game's favor. It's not something that's too graphically intensive for a cell phone, and it's definitely not going anywhere near pushing the Switch's hardware boundaries. So we're seeing our first. A couple weeks ago, we did a show, and I said we have yet to see a game that bridged the gap between mobile and the home console. And I thought that the team that was going to be making Dragalia Lost would be able to accommodate that. The Pokemon Company has beaten Nintendo to that punch. They are releasing a game that is cross-compatible between multiple systems, and I think that's a really good idea. I've been saying the Switch is the perfect device to make something like that happen. Like, there's not enough games like this on the Switch. I'm not saying I want the Switch covered in the shovelware like that the Wii U got, but I do think there is a place for mobile games on the Switch. Like, I specifically think that Hearthstone would work phenomenally on the Nintendo Switch. I'm actually really surprised that Blizzard hasn't made any attempt at making that happen. There's even a Skylanders game that's pretty similar to Hearthstone as far as how it plays, and it's kind of like an amiibo style game or an NFC based game where you put the cards down. The Nintendo Switch has an amiibo reader. I'm just surprised we're not seeing that kind of cross pollination between certain mobile games and the Nintendo Switch. So I'm interested. I'm really interested in this game, and I'm gonna download it on all my devices tonight and see how it is. And anybody who says they're not, I implore you to give this game a chance because you might really like it. It might really be fun. Pokemon Duel was a great game. And even though it got overshadowed by Pokemon Go that very same year, still a great game. Like, I don't play it anymore, but I played it hardcore straight for a year and a half.
Speaking of games crossing that boundary between home console and mobile phone, like the next game on our list kind of does a little bit of that as well, doesn't it?
Yes, sir, it does. So we've been speculating it, for months now. It's, there's been plenty of little hints and clues from, the Pokemon Company, specifically their Twitter account, where they created a separate Twitter specifically for Eevee. So we've known for a little while that there's going to be something big happening with the character of Eevee. Today we got that confirmation. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee were officially announced. They are remakes of Pokemon Yellow. Obviously, there's two iterations. There's a Pikachu version, Eevee version, and they have a lot of interesting features. I want to start graphically first, though. I want to talk about the way the game looks. This took the best parts of the 3DS's art style and really applied it, and it looks gorgeous in high definition. It looks gorgeous in high definition. Like,
I would call it Super X and Y graphics as opposed to Super Sun and Moon. It looks a bit more X and Y to me. I loved the art style in X and Y a bit more.
Because they're chibi. X and Y had that chibi art style where as Sun and Moon,
it was entirely just lanky, tall. Yeah.
Exactly. The way the character looks in battle versus the way the character looked on the map. I like that as well. I think that's the right art style for any Pokemon game. My biggest worry in a Switch transition was that they would try to go hyper, realistic, or they'd go too out there. My biggest worry was that they would try to mimic Breath of the Wild. And not that I don't think the Pokemon Company artists are capable of making a game that looks like that. It's too much of a deviation from the Pokemon art style. I think Detective Pikachu was about as far as you can really deviate from the traditional Pokemon art style. That is graphically, it's a great looking Pokemon game, but it looks really Western by comparison, and I did not want that for a mainline Pokemon game. Now, I know these are remakes, but technically they fall within the mainline series, and that's awesome.
Wait, they do fall within the mainline series. I did not think they actually did, and that's something I want to talk about. But I also want to talk about, continue on the graphics discussion. There's a lot I need to cover. Going off the graphics, I'm actually not impressed with the environments. I think that the environments, they look fairly nice, but I think they look too 3DS still, is my problem. They also look a bit Pokemon Go-like, which I think there's obviously a reason for that. We'll touch on that when we get there. But the environments, I think, could look a bit better. I think it's also because it's early. It's their first sort of crack at the Switch Pokemon game. I think come another Pokemon game on the Switch, we might see a big jump in those environments.
I honestly didn't expect them to go so hardcore on their first attempt.
Especially if it's Gen 1 remake as well.
Well, if it came out this year, I didn't expect it to be too graphically intensive. But I thought if it were coming out in 2019 or later, that it would. So this is a bridge. Let's call this a bridge game, because I think it's definitely bridging the gap between the 3DS and the Nintendo Switch. And I think the art style is very reflective of that. And like I said, I like it. Okay, so we've talked about the graphics. Can we talk about just the actual trailer for a minute? Because the trailer was a freaking mind. It was a mind F. Because when they started the trailer, I was like, what are they adding to Pokemon Go? Because it starts with the trainer holding his cell phone, and you see Pokemon Go, and I was like, okay, so Pokemon Go is getting some kind of significant update, but what are they finally going to add? The features that we've asked for Pokemon Go since day one, the features that you promised us in that very first trailer. Are we going to get the PvP battles? Are we going to finally be able to trade? Is that finally coming? That's what I thought. And the trainer rides his bike. Pikachu's, running alongside him. They run into the house. They turn on the Nintendo Switch.
And Pikachu jumps into the
TV. Exactly. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. So that's our first little inkling that they were going to integrate the two games officially in that moment. And that trailer was beautiful. There are things in that trailer I almost cried. I could feel like the water welling up in my eyes. I was like, oh my God, this is a real thing. So I guess we should just start talking about some of the features we saw in the trailer. So we've talked about graphics, Pokemon Go integration.
Mhm.
That's probably one of the bigger features for casuals. The fan base who jumped on the Pokemon Go bandwagon back in 2016. And let's be honest, there's still a very large Pokemon Go community. That active player base is still really high. Now, it's not the same as it was in 2016, but anybody who did play in 2016 now has a lot of incentive to go back to Pokemon Go. The announcement of Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee has officially made Pokemon Go a viable game again because of certain functions, specifically the transfer function. The ability to transfer Gen 1 Pokemon from Pokemon Go into Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, that's a huge deal because it means that all the hours that you sunk into Pokemon Go actually mean something. That they mean something significant. And I think that's really interesting, especially if you were able to capture all 150 Pokemon. That's a huge win. So I caught Mew a couple weeks ago in Pokemon Go. So this will be the first time in a mainline Pokemon game that I will be able to take a Mew that I myself caught and put it in that game. I think that's super awesome. I love the fact that they did that. Brendan, what are your thoughts on these specific features?
On the Pokemon Go integration, I think it's kind of cool. I'm not sure how it will entirely work. In Pokemon Go, the Pokemon data itself for the Pokemon are very different from what we've seen traditionally in mainstream series iterations. So whereas, all Pokemon we know in the mainstream series have four moves they can use, the Pokemon in Pokemon Go only really have 2. And so will they only have 2 moves, or will they be completely changed, or what happens with that? As well as like CP is not a function in Pokemon. They don't have that kind of file in the mainstream games either. So how will CP get transferred over? I believe the IV system is slightly different as well. So how will the IVs transfer? So I'll be interested to see how everything, like abilities as well. Abilities are a thing. But I'm interested to see how the actual Pokemon transfer themselves will just give you a random version of that with maybe the same nickname, or will it actually correspond with in-game stats and numbers.
I'm also interested in that. Another thing that kind of got me a little interested was the way that you transferred Pokemon. It was very reminiscent to how Pokemon got transferred in later generations, where you sent your Pokemon to a park and had to recapture them. I don't know if you're going to have to recapture them, but it did say that you were sending your Pokemon over to the Poke Park. So I was also interested in what you were saying, though, about how the functions of CP will work and the IV transference. Very interesting. And again, I think the biggest hurdle is the 2 moves. Like,
2 moves.
Are you transferring?
Maybe an ability.
It'd be nice if it was just 2 moves and then you had
the ability to fill in the rest
exactly.
that you leveled up.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I think that would be really cool. I think just being able to fill those last 2 moves with whatever you want, possibly something defensive or for certain Pokemon.
I kind of hope we get some exclusive moves too. Like if, how Pikachu originally had Surf in the Gen 1 games, etc. Like if you could be given a Pikachu that had a certain special move in Pokemon Go, you managed to catch that, have that be a move you couldn't get in Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, as well as a couple Pokemon like the Santa hat Pikachu and the Ash hat Pikachu. You could catch in Pokemon Go. Will they transfer over as with their special little hats, or those transfer over as normal Pikachu?
I would assume that they're going to transfer over with their costumes because, as we saw in the trailer, Pikachu and Eevee are customizable to a certain extent. I
did not see that actually.
We saw them dressing up in a. Basically they dressed the Pikachu up in the exact same outfit as this version of Trainer Red, or we'll call him Yellow in this version. So yeah, like we're seeing that. There's another cool feature that we saw that's coming. It looks like the Pokemon Company trying to kind of capitalize on how you catch Pokemon in Pokemon Go, where you now are going to have the ability to use your Joy-Cons and motion control catch your Pokemon.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering that if I spin my Joy-Con the way I would spin my finger in Pokemon Go, that improves my chances of catching a Pokemon. I hope that's a function that carries over. I actually think this is a really interesting way of catching Pokemon, and no more random encounters. All the Pokemon were in the world. You could walk up to the Pokemon and catch them like that. I think that's a feature that has been a lot of people have wanted for Pokemon. The ability to eliminate the random battle, and you see the Pokemon very, very Xenoblade-esque, where you see the monster on the field and then you either choose to attack it or yeah, exactly. You choose to attack it or you choose to not. That's a very cool way. It's pretty much how it works in Pokemon Go, and I really think that's really good for this game. I think that's a nice, interesting way of learning from one of the improvements of Pokemon Go. I don't think Pokemon Go made a lot of improvements to the Pokemon formula, but I think the catching mechanics, just the catching mechanic, was a lot of fun. It definitely worked for mobile games, and I definitely think it has a place in this game. I think it's a really good idea.
So on that topic, yes. So the catching is very similar to how it looks in Pokemon Go. You have your circle reticles now, and you throw like you would flick a Pokeball. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't played it or tested it out, but in Pokemon Go, you have a chance to miss. You do have a chance to miss. And that's something where I feel like that's not going to be a thing. We didn't see anyone miss. They probably didn't want anyone missing in the trailer, though. But I feel like it's just you just do the gesture and it throws. I don't think there's any aiming. I think it's more just timing the circle. At first, I wasn't sure how I felt about that. I understand the appeal of like marketing perspective, like people resonate with that in Pokemon Go after being like off the Pokemon franchise for a while. They got back in Pokemon Go, and then this is to bridge that gap back into mainstream series again, I guess. But as long as I don't need to actually, if I can't miss, I'm fine. Missing is what would bug me with that. I'm not sure how I feel about spinning my like finger or whatever, like you were saying. I don't think I'd hate it, but I'm not sure I really want that feature in. I don't know.
I think that's a fun feature. I think that's a nice new way to do it. Hey, if you give the option, I don't think they're going to, but it would be cool if you had the option of a traditional catch and motion control catching.
Yeah.
So one of the things I kind of speculated early on about
I want to state one more opinion on the Pokemon in the overworld. I think a lot of RPGs do that, like Dragon Quest does that, Final Fantasy does that, and obviously Pokemon Go did it in their overworld as well. I don't think that's something I want in my Pokemon games, though, actually. I think, I want my random, like I'm in a cave. I want to use my repel, so I don't want to have an encounter. I want, to be randomly surprised with my Pokemon. I think part of that random surprise is what kind of made the original Pokemon kind of fun, too. Like, looking at the anime, who is that Pokemon? When that battle initiation music starts, you don't know what it's going to be. And so I walk up to a Clefairy, I know it's a Clefairy, though, right? And I feel like that loses a lot of its charm. I don't know.
Very true, but one of the things that Pokemon has been extraordinarily well at doing in other forms of media that they haven't really been able to do in the mainline games is show the world populated with Pokemon. Pokemon existing and coexisting with humans. We don't see that in the mainline games because all the encounters are randomized. I mean, yeah, but
like Beautifly in the beginning of Oros, Machoke's moving you in, etc. All the cities are usually littered with Pokemon you can interact with.
Yeah, but it's not as like full. It's not as I can catch.
I can see that.
Like I think
Sun and Moon was kind of full, though. I'd say.
Yeah, Sun and Moon was the best integration at it thus far in a mainline game. Detective Pikachu does it flawless.
Well, but it's a third-party spin-off. Not third-party, it's just spin-off. Yeah,
it's a spin-off game. Yeah. So it's a lot easier. You're not, especially since you don't have to catch the Pokemon in that game. Just a function that I think, a feature that I think has been missing, and that's something that we see it in all the other forms of media, especially in the anime and the movies. We see the world is littered with Pokemon. They exist with humans, and they're everywhere. And I feel like the mainline games just don't do that to the right degree. And I think they do. This game definitely does that, because it's taking lessons from Pokemon Go. In Pokemon Go, when you walk to a certain location, hundreds of Pokemon can pop up on your screen at any given time.
And then crash your game.
Exactly. But yes, I mean, you can at least see 10 Pokemon at a time on your mobile device, and I think that's a function that will be welcome to a lot of players who are coming from Pokemon Go. And that's the thing. We can say a lot of bad things about Pokemon Go. We could say it's not a real Pokemon game. We could say it wasn't really good for the series in the long run. We can say that the fan base that it created was fickle. But guess what? For a lot of people, that was their very first Pokemon experience. I talked about this at length with Mario After Party. Was that Pokemon Go
kind of like a gateway drug?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Bridging the mainline series with Pokemon Go is really smart, because those people who had their first encounter with Pokemon via Pokemon Go will now walk into a main series Pokemon game with a level of familiarity that they wouldn't have had if they jumped into a game like Sun and Moon. Now, that was the problem, is that Pokemon Go came out, and then 6 months later, Pokemon Sun and Moon came out, which were much more traditional games. Now, I know they sold like wildfire because of the hype that Pokemon Go generated, but I think a lot of people who played those games might have felt alienated because the game was different, completely different.
I feel like it was kind of overwhelming in a sense, because not only is it different, you're going into like 900 Pokemon at that point as well. Pokemon only had 150 at the time. So whereas you could really choose Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle, etc., Pikachu is a hidden option. In Pokemon Go, who are all these new guys all of a sudden? What? And so you're given a different format, different formula, lots of new Pokemon you don't know anymore, and a new place, I guess. Not that the world of Pokemon Go is traditionally Kanto, but I feel like going back to Kanto will resonate more with Pokemon Go players as well. I don't know. I feel like Sun Moon was kind of overwhelming for people.
Aside from that, there are a couple other Pokemon Go integration features, like being able to transfer gifts, being able to take a Pokemon from in-game and have it interact. One Pokemon, specifically in Pokemon Go, is really cool. Like having a transfer backwards in a sense. It's not really a backwards transfer. It's like, hey, this functions with Pokemon Go. And to do that, they're releasing a new accessory. One that I fell in love with the moment they showed it. It is called the Pokeball Plus, which is very similar to the Pokemon Go Plus, but it's a lot more awesome. So it has Bluetooth functionality, so it'll work with both your Nintendo Switch and your mobile device. It has a little speaker somewhere inside of it, and it has rumble features. So let's say you transfer Pikachu from, the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu into your little Pokeball. It has a little bit of interactivity when it's inside the ball. Although traditionally we all know that in-game Pikachu, Ash Pikachu doesn't go in a Pokeball, but we'll forgive them for this. We will definitely forgive them for this. But yeah, it definitely had a little bit of integration there. And what I really like about this accessory is aesthetically it's awesome, but it functions as an actual Joy-Con for the main game. It functions as a Joy-Con for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. And I was looking at some of the high-res photos of it, and the button that would traditionally open the Pokemon, it's an analog stick. That's brilliant. That is brilliant. I love
it. Looks a bit more like a 3DS slide pad, I think, actually, is what I call it.
Well, the high-res photos that I was looking at, it looked just like the analog stick that the Joy-Con specifically has.
I think that's more what it is, but it's like indented. It's inside the Pokeball more too, to make it more like a button.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, I think so.
And obviously, it comes with its handy-dandy wrist strap. This is cool. And I'm also looking at a high-res photo comparing it to a Pokemon Go Plus. I'm actually surprised at how small this is. It's obviously big enough to fit in your hand comfortably. Like you won't be uncomfortable
cramping playing the game. Yeah,
but it's small. It's perfectly carryable. Like I'm going to carry this everywhere. Not for nothing. I bring my Switch with me most places. I will definitely be bringing this to play. And so this, as it functions as a Joy-Con, it does have built-in gyroscopes and motion controls. So you can actually use this to throw you do the throwing motion and catch a Pokemon as you would with the Joy-Cons in this specific game. I think that's beautiful. I think that is a beautiful function. I love it.
Do you know if it has HD Rumble at all?
They do. It does have certain rumbles.
Okay.
They showcased that in the trailer when the female player had the
girl like petting the Pokeball, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So they show that it does have certain rumble functions.
Okay.
Whether it's HD rumble, that's undisclosed. But this thing will retail at $50. So it's roughly the cost of one Joy-Con. So I would imagine that if they're going to go through the effort of making this, that it will most likely integrate HD Rumble. I see no reason why they wouldn't if they're going to charge full premium price for it.
But it kind of wonders, what would you use that for? I think there's a lot of interesting options with Pokemon that you could use that for. So I think that's kind of cool. But I want to share my thoughts on the Pokeball. I really like it. I really hope it's usable with other games, though.
You don't want another Pokemon Walker synth.
I hope that I could use this in Breath of the Wild. If I got two of them, I could use left, right Joy-Con, but left and right Pokeballs. I'm not quite sure, but I feel like at $50, I don't want it just for one game. I feel like if I'm paying $50, I want an actual whole controller. Like Joy-Cons are usable with every single game. You know, we're looking at around the same price for PlayStation and Xbox One controllers. So to get a controller that only works for one game, I'd be kind of upset about. It's very, very nice. I kind of really, really like the fact it's a Pokewalker, though. Pokewalker was really, really cool. And even though I don't think that, I'm not quite sure how it would all work, but I think it would just work through Pokemon Go, honestly. But what I kind of want to see is, I have a Pokewalker right here, actually. Go figure. Anyways, so I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to say. The ability to catch Pokemon, like, by walking and get encounters just like you could with this. By walking, you would level up your Pokemon. I hope that by, like, taking them on a stroll with me, I level them up a little bit, would be nice. Learn new moves, catch things that I could then transfer over, but I think it would catch them in Pokemon Go, and then I could transfer them from Pokemon Go to the games, I guess, right? Is how it would really work. I'm not sure. But I think that's how it would kind of work in terms of catching. I do hope we get some exclusive moves. Pick up items would be nice. I'm not entirely sure if it is. I'm not sure. It's going to. I'm sorry. I'm totally blanking.
No, I get what you're.
Oh yeah, no. If it will only work with Pikachu or Eevee, or I could put like some random not plus or minus, but like a Tauros or a Ditto or a Chansey in there, will it be exclusive to the starter choices, or I don't know.
I definitely think you're going to be able to put a lot of different Pokemon in there. I don't think they would limit it like that. Obviously, I don't think players would want to have that kind of limitation on the game. So moving away from the Pokeball, there were a couple other features that were in the game. The ability to have Pokemon follow you, not just limited to Pikachu and Eevee. We actually saw in one of the screenshots was a trainer riding an Onix.
Yeah.
And a Gengar following a trainer while the Eevee rode on top of the trainer's head.
Yeah.
So that is a pretty cool. I thought that was amazing. Like, I think the Pokemon mainline games have struggled with showcasing Pokemon interacting with their trainers. That was one of the few times they got it right, and they got it right in Pokemon Yellow. They got it right in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and then that's a function that keeps changing constantly.
Yeah,
they just keep taking that function out, even though they've added it multiple times, and I think people like that function. It's requested over and over again. It's nice to see it in here. It remains to be seen if this is going to show up in the mainline game that they announced for 2019. Aside from that, 2-player co-op. That was shown off.
That was what I wanted to talk about next. That and the one Joy-Con feature. Yeah. So the game only really needs, I'm not sure if it even has a 2 Joy-Con setup, but you only need one Joy-Con to do everything. So you can, I love this idea. I'm a big advocate for Joy-Cons being separate, so I can have my arms out in this T position and relax all day, as opposed to together on both sides of one single controller. I love being able to play games free with my hands, but I could have a Joy-Con in one hand and drink a soda can out of the other or something. And that's kind of cool. I like that. Like, eat my pasta with one hand and play Pokemon. I don't know. But I feel like that's a whole new level of freedom as opposed to just having the Joy-Cons be separate. And I love that. But if you give your friend the other Joy-Con, you then have created a 2-player experience. And I feel like some things were shown to be 2-player exclusive, correct?
Yeah, I think they it was really hard because that trailer flashes through the 2-player functions really fast. But what we did see was a multiplayer battle.
Mm-hmm. And then a multiplayer catches as well.
Catches, exactly, which is supposed to improve your chances at catching a Pokemon.
With special animations as well.
It was gorgeous. I'm almost at a loss for words because it just looked so good to see that. It looked so cool to see them do something like that.
Yeah.
I never expected multiplayer co-op in a Pokemon game, especially with split Joy-Cons. I think that's what really sold me on it.
That's the key selling thing for me.
The single Joy-Con was
the single Joy-Con and 2-player.
It's not just playing at home with split Joy-Cons. You play here, you play here. You can play on the go like that feasibly in tabletop mode.
Yeah, tabletop mode.
Put the Switch down, the tablet down, and pass off a Joy-Con, and you're playing Pokemon. Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, like that. That is there are no words to describe how much I love that.
One question that I kind of have though is, so let's say I'm playing as player 1. I have my full team of 6 Pokemon. What Pokemon does my player 2 have? Does it split 3v3? Is it they have their own set of 6 or what? I'm not quite sure how that works.
I'm hoping that they have to have their own set. They have to catch their own team.
That's what I was kind of thinking, but
maybe
I don't know.
Have the team maybe like when the game auto saves a second player team based on Pokemon that either you, the primary trainer, has caught. So let's say you've caught 100 Pokemon. When the second player joins the team, they can pick the from among the Pokemon that you've caught but aren't part of your primary core team of 6.
So like when you send something back to Professor Bill's PC, it might get sent to player 2, or you could do it where like the battle boxes. You have a player 2 box, and that's just player 2's team sitting nice and pretty in the PC box, and then when you join, that's their team. You can do some fun stuff with that, I bet. Yeah. But those are the 2 big features really for me, is the single Joy-Con and the 2-player co-op. Those are like pretty much the reasons why, if I do get this game, why I'm getting it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I just, oh my god, like I'm flustered, man. I'm flustered. I mean, the only thing they didn't say this game was getting that I would have loved for them to have announced is amiibos, especially after that amazingly giant Pikachu. Exactly. That's like my favorite amiibo of all time now.
How many did you buy again? You bought a bunch recently.
I am up to 6. I have one unboxed and 5 boxed. Not a scalper. These are for my personal collection, and maybe to put away, do a giveaway for the show. So,
all right.
Yeah, I basically cleared out my local Toys R Us when they all went down to like 50%. Just cleared them out. But yeah, I'm just surprised. Like that's the only thing we didn't see was amiibo integration. But I mean, there's a whole new Joy-Con function here. So I should just shut up and just be happy.
But so like overall thoughts with Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu then?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I thought this game looks great graphically. It is the right bridge between the 3DS and the Nintendo Switch. I think we'll see a more graphically intensive game in 2019. But I'm very happy with the art style that they chose. I think the Pokemon Go functions that they chose to carry over into this game were the right ones to make because they don't alienate the Pokemon Go playing fan base, the fan base that is only known Pokemon Go and none of the mainline games. I think that's proper. I love the ability to have Pokemon in the overworld map, seeing them ahead of time. I think that's a function that I've personally always wanted. Eliminating the random battles. I mean, I know a lot of people are gonna, not like that, but I personally think that's the right way because it just showcases the world of Pokemon better. And I just think the Pokeball Go Plus is one of the coolest Pokemon accessories they have ever announced, and I am ecstatic to add one to my collection, maybe 2.
So I feel like for such a hardcore Pokemon fan, like Pokemon my favorite series. I can't get enough of it. If you had to count up my total playtime with all of my Pokemon games, I'm kind of scared to admit that I think it might be over half of my waking life. And that is not a joke. I clocked out maximum hours in Pokemon X before super early into my playtime with that, which is scary. But I feel like it's weird that I have to say I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. There's a lot of unique ideas, and I'm absolutely in love with them. Like, I'm a big fan of Pokemon Go, Pokeball Plus thing. I'm just not sure I'll get it for $50 if it is only for that game, but I think it's awesome otherwise. Other than that, I think it sits at a very uncomfortable place with me in terms of being a bridge type game. It doesn't feel like a spin-off, but it doesn't feel like a core entry to me, and that makes it weird to me. That for me, there's always been this fine line between, like, this is Mystery Dungeon, so therefore it's a spin-off. This is Sun and Moon, therefore it's a new core entry. And then this sits in a very fine line where it's very Pokemon Go-like, which was a mobile phone game. It's very new entry, next gen sort of feeling. And that's what makes me feel uncomfortable with it. And I'm like, it's a Switch game. It's going to be $60. I'm positive of it. And so traditionally, I've only paid $40 for my Pokemon games or less. And they're main entries most of the time. Usually the spin-offs are a little bit cheaper. So for a main entry, I'm used to paying $40. And in this case, I'd be paying $60 plus $50 for a one-time potentially controller. And that's kind of where I'm more uncomfortable with actually thinking about it. Like, for a potential just spin-off that's a better spin-off, I don't know what they call it. It's uncategorized spin-off. It's like if Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire were spin-off versions of Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. I don't know.
I imagine that it will at least work with future Pokemon games.
I would hope so, yeah. Maybe not the Pokemon Go integration if they do decide to ditch that, but I think it would still have, like, the ability to play the game. I hope that one-handed Joy-Con and two players is a thing that sticks around for a while, as well as Pokemon following you again. I hope that sticks around. At first, I was questionable about, like, the Pokemon Go looking catching circles and the, like, overworld Pokemon not being in tall grass. But I feel like that's something that I'll get over it pretty quickly, and so I can't be too fussy about it. I'll get over it eventually. But I'm mostly worried about, like, is it worth the price to get the Pokeball and the game when it doesn't quite feel like a full game to me? It looks great nonetheless.
Personally,
I don't know.
Personally, I'm getting it. I said, I might get two. You know me, man. I am a collector.
Yeah.
I might buy one for the game just to play with, and one to keep in box because that's just my personality.
Yeah.
And if I have to start driving some Uber to make sure I get that payment happening, I will definitely do that. Yeah. But I think that's gonna be it. I think that's gonna cover all the topics. So, guys,
I mean, well, we could just mention they did also announce that there's a 2019 game happening, which we believe would be Gen 8. I believe the tweets did say that it's a next generation. So there is potentially another game after this. So if Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu are the bridge type games that we think they are, we would still be in store for a mainline series that maybe might be even more technically advanced, graphically, incorporate more features, have new Pokemon, a new region, sometime in 2019. So that was also mentioned that. So we're getting Pokemon Quest, which is out now. We're getting the Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu coming, I believe, November this year, and finishing it off with a final mystery next gen Pokemon with new Pokemon, potentially new region, etc. in 2019. So there's a lot of good stuff to look forward to. Like, if this is the bridge game, we can only imagine what greatness the 2019 game has in store.
Yeah, that's true. They did announce that, and I am super excited about that, but they kind of cut the press conference off before they could really give any details about it. So
I think that was the intention, just saying it's happening. Look forward to it.
Exactly. So I'm gonna be happy with the announcements that we got today. I definitely want to speak more on this in the future, and I think we will save that for the main show on Friday. We'll speculate a little bit more on that mainline game. But for now, I think we should go ahead and wrap it up. This was an amazing announcement, and I thought today was going to be kind of a slow, boring day. I pretty much thought the only big thing that was going to happen was Street Fighter 30th anniversary coming out today. Man, did they really steal that Street Fighter hype.
Yeah, no, totally. I heard rumors that we were going to get something this month, and I'm like, nah, that's just BS. They were saying it because, like, we traditionally got one before E3 every year, but then, of course, here we are, and they told me so. They definitely told me so. But I thought we were just going to have May go by with no news nor Pokemon news that.
You know, realistically, I would have been okay with this happening a little bit closer to E3. I know we're
getting down to it, though.
We're roughly 2 weeks away, but I would have been happy with this announcement at E3. Would have really would have been a huge announcement. Although I don't think Nintendo's complaining. I saw their stock price during this announcement, and it flew.
Well, they've always done this. So they announced the big Pokemon game a week or so before E3. They always do that, and that gets them in the media, in the spotlight, ahead of everyone else. That puts them at the center of attention before Sony, before Microsoft, before everyone else, and they can have that momentum early on, and that's a good, like, very solid strategy for them.
Yeah, this was definitely a major win for the Pokemon Company, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, huge news. Guys, let us know what you think. Hit us up in the comments, email us, all that good stuff. So let's just hit you up with those links real quick. You can hit me up on Twitter at NyceOne93. You can email me at NyceOne93@gmail.com. Hit me up on Facebook, Facebook.com/Nintendo Power Zone. If you're a fan of this podcast, you can always download new episodes on iTunes, Google Play Music, stream new episodes on Stitcher Radio. But if you want to watch the show live like you're doing right now, YouTube.com/Nintendo Power Zone. We will have all the breaking news like this as often as we possibly can. And of course, we have our main podcast, so you should always go ahead and download that. Blooz, hit them up.
That's going up on Friday as well. We're recording that for the pre-E3 show. It's going to be a big one. Don't miss out, you guys. So just like we got this announcement today, there's going to be a lot of big announcements. We're going to be predicting that. We're going to see what actually happens, and then we're going to do the post-show afterwards as well. So you can follow me on Twitter at TheKingBlooz, Blooz spelled Blooz, on Twitter. And, yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys, that's going to be it from us. Let's go, Pikachu!
Let's go, Eevee!
Deuces.